The story begins in Alaska, which is a very cold place. Because of the rapidly increasing heat all around the world, the ice inside Alaska also slowly started melting. The thick sheet of ice kept getting thinner, and one day from beneath the melting ice, a very old and dangerous creature came out. This was the Wyvern, a terrifying ice dragon. Nearby at a pond, formed due to melting ice, a fisherman was cleaning the fish he had caught. His knife slipped, and by mistake his finger got cut. To clean the wound, he dipped his hand into the cold water. But as soon as one drop of his blood fell into the water, the dragon awakened. This monster had been trapped there for 10,000 years and was starving. It immediately attacked the fisherman. The poor man tried very hard to run, but the dragon cornered him and swallowed him whole. A little distance away from this tragic accident was a small town called Beaver Mills. Everything there was going completely normal. Days and nights in Alaska are much longer compared to other places, because of which outsiders often have trouble. One of those outsiders was Jake. Jake used to work as a truck driver earlier, but after his brother died in a horrific accident, he quit that job and now worked as a carpenter. At that moment, Jake was doing some repair work in a small restaurant in the town. While Jake was working, a girl named Claire who worked there was watching him very attentively. Jake had been working for a long time, so Claire thought she should offer him coffee. She picked up the coffee and was walking toward him when suddenly David, a well-known doctor in the town, came in between. He took the coffee from Claire's hand, thinking that it was for him, and asked Claire if she would go on a date with him. Claire refused, just like she had many times before. Feeling insulted and angry, David walked away. Later, Claire apologized to Jake and told him that the coffee was actually for him, but now it was gone. She offered Jake food if he was hungry. Jake was indeed hungry, so he agreed. Inside the diner, Jake met an elderly woman named Edna. She was a regular customer there and always ordered breakfast for two, one for herself and one for her husband. Sadly, she was the wife of that same fisherman whom the dragon had eaten just a little while earlier. Edna was still not able to recover from the sorrow of her husband's disappearance. Claire noticed that Jake too was going through a similar sadness. She comforted him and said that his brother must be happy wherever he was. But Jake wasn't ready to talk about his brother. He finished his coffee and went home, which was a van. On the other side of the town, a retired colonel was feeding his dog in his garden when suddenly from the sky, the severed head of a large deer fell straight in front of him. This strange incident quickly became news. Because only one radio station operated in that area, the reporter broadcast the news to everyone. Most people thought it was a prank done by mischievous kids, but in reality, it was a warning sign of the danger to come. Jake heard this news but didn't pay attention and went back to his van. A little later, Dr. David came to Jake at his van. He looked at Jake's hand and said he wanted to treat the injury. But treatment was just an excuse. David actually wanted to find out if something was happening between Jake and Claire. Jake refused and told the doctor that he wasn't going to stay here forever. He explained that as soon as he received the insurance money from his brother's accident, he would leave. Hearing this made the doctor very happy. He told Jake that he didn't need to pay for the treatment, and if he needed anything else, he could ask. On the way back, David stopped his car near the forest for the bathroom. While he was outside, he heard a loud sound from above. When he looked up, he saw the huge ice dragon. The dragon came near the car and suddenly attacked David. Somehow he ran into the forest and hid for some time. When he thought the dragon had gone, he came back to his car. But as soon as he tried to start the car, the dragon returned and attacked him again, which made it look like David was killed. The next day, a man named Haas went into the forest to hunt. He saw strange marks on the ground and even saw dung from a very large animal. He knew that no animal in that forest could leave such large marks. Suddenly, the wyvern appeared in front of him. Haas fired his gun, but the dragon dodged. The sound of the gunshot was heard by Sheriff Dawson, who was talking to Jake outside the diner. They followed the sound into the forest where they found Haas, terrified. Haas told him that he had seen a huge monster in the sky and barely escaped. The sheriff didn't believe him. He thought he was talking nonsense under the influence of alcohol. He told him to come to the station and give a statement. But then Jake saw a severed hand in the forest. He recognized the shirt and watch immediately. It was Dr. David's hand, the same doctor he had met yesterday. The sheriff was confused and didn't understand what was happening.
Haas kept repeating that the monster was very dangerous and would kill everyone. Even though they had no proof of a dragon, David's severed hand couldn't be ignored. The sheriff called an emergency meeting at the restaurant. He told everyone that an unknown creature was attacking the town. He didn't fully believe Haas's monster story, but still he warned everyone to stay inside their homes. Just then, Deputy Susie walked in with the doctor's severed hand. Seeing this, everyone panicked. The sheriff strictly ordered that no one would go into the forest alone, and everyone should take care of their pets. A special annual festival was coming up in the town, and people asked the sheriff what would happen to the festival. Jake said, "Are you people crazy? A man's hand was found and you're worried about the festival." But the sheriff replied that outsiders don't understand their ways, and the festival will not stop so the town wouldn't fall into fear. After the meeting, the sheriff got a call from a man named Thomas, who said his farm had been attacked. The sheriff immediately left. Meanwhile, the retired Colonel Travis was still trying to figure out who threw that deer head in his garden. He looked up and saw the giant dragon flying in the sky. He immediately took his jeep to go tell the police. But on the way, the dragon suddenly appeared in front of him. The colonel stepped out with his gun and fired at the wyvern. The bullets did nothing, but the noise scared the dragon away. Then the colonel went into the town and told Deputy Susie everything. He said aliens had attacked our world. Susie thought the old man had gone crazy and told him to go home. Still, she decided she should inform the sheriff. But by then, the sheriff had reached Thomas's farm and wasn't picking up his phone. When the sheriff entered the horse stable, he called out to Thomas. Suddenly, he slipped in a pool of blood. There he found Thomas's dead body. The sheriff wasn't used to seeing so much bloodshed. He got so frightened that he fainted.
The colonel then ran to someone named Hampton at the radio station. He said to make an emergency announcement about the monster. But Hampton refused because she couldn't do it without government permission. The colonel became angry but couldn't do anything. Then he went to his friend Farley, who was cooking food for the festival. But Farley didn't believe him either. Soon everyone believed when the wyvern itself entered the town. It landed right in front of the radio station. Seeing the dragon, Hampton tried to send a message for help, but the dragon destroyed the electric pole, cutting the power and shutting down the radio. At the farm, the sheriff regained consciousness and told Susie through his radio to send everyone home. Susie used the megaphone to announce that everyone must return to their homes, but she was unlucky. Suddenly, the giant dragon swooped down on her and killed her instantly with its deadly claws. Now everyone started running in fear. The entire town was in chaos. Claire and Jake ran inside the restaurant. They heard screams and saw the dragon approaching. It broke the diner door with its massive teeth and tried to come inside. People hid behind tables. After a few moments, the dragon stopped attacking and flew up into the sky to hunt others in the town. A little later, Hampton and Farley came into the diner and told everyone that the monster was eating people one by one. Everyone found it unbelievable. Then Claire said maybe it's a dragon like in old stories. Hampton called her crazy, but Haas said that every country has mysterious dragon stories. He explained that in old legends, there was a dragon named Wyvern that was born in hell and was always hungry. According to the story, in the beginning, it only ate bad people, but later its hunger grew so much that it started eating everyone. Odin, the king of the gods, imprisoned it in a mountain of ice. Now that ice around the world is melting. Maybe the Wyvern has been freed. Haas knew this because his family came from Norway, where the stories originate. Jake asked if there was a way to kill it. Haas said that in the old days, people offered human sacrifices, which in today's time is impossible. Jake decided he would go find the sheriff and call for help. Claire said she would go with him. They got in the car and drove. They looked up and saw the dragon landing in part of the forest. Despite the danger, Jake said he wanted to get close to see where the dragon was hiding. On another road, the colonel was also searching for the dragon. He saw a trailer standing in the middle of the road. The vehicle was empty, but there were bloodstains inside and outside, as if a fight had happened there. When he saw more vehicles, all were crushed and people were missing. He realized the dragon wanted to trap people inside the town so it wouldn't run out of food. Inside the diner, Hampton tried to get the radio working again, but the system was completely dead. A while later, the sheriff returned to town, but everything was destroyed. He tried to call for help, but the dragon came flying toward him. Farley yelled at him to hide inside the diner, but just as the sheriff tried to enter, the dragon attacked him and carried him away. By then, Jake had reached the forest where he saw the dragon's nest, made from all the broken things it had gathered. He gave Claire a pistol and told her to stay inside the car. When Jake moved ahead, the dragon attacked the car. Claire tried to hide, but the dragon broke the door. Claire bravely fired shots. Jake ran back but found the car empty.
Fortunately, he found Claire in the forest. She had narrowly escaped. A few seconds later, the colonel arrived, who had come after hearing the gunshots. They realized there was only one way to stop the dragon: kill it. The three of them went back to town. Jake used a communicator to talk to Hampton and found out the sheriff was dead. They needed a new plan. They didn't have many weapons and the phones were not working. Hampton remembered a radio in her studio, but it needed a stronger antenna. They figured a nearby store would have one. Jake and Hampton went there. On the way, they took weapons and ammo from the sheriff's car and gave them to the colonel so he could protect the others. At the store, Jake climbed the roof and started unscrewing the antenna. When he was removing the last screw, the dragon returned. Hampton took out a pistol and fired at the dragon to help Jake. Jake managed to detach the antenna. They ran back to the diner and barely survived. Inside the diner, Hampton installed the antenna and connected the radio. Jake set the frequency and managed to speak to a security agency. But the signal was weak and the agent didn't believe him. Jake thought no one would believe the dragon story. So he lied and said there was a gas explosion and they needed help. The signal cut out before the conversation finished. Now they were on their own. So Jake decided they had to fight the dragon. Everyone got their weapons ready and Farley and Haas went to get fuel. Suddenly the dragon appeared on top of a house. Farley panicked and the dragon hit him with its tail, injuring him badly. Jake rushed to save him while the others continued attacking the dragon. Meanwhile, in the dragon's nest, we see Dr. David. He was still alive. David took off his tie and tied it around his arm to reduce the bleeding. When he stood up, he saw 3 large dragon eggs. But before he could do anything, the dragon returned and took him back to the town. Back in the town, Jake and Claire were resting when Haas reported that the Wyvern had returned. Everyone looked outside and saw the dragon drop David on the ground. It was a trap. The dragon wanted people to come out and get him. Jake knew it was dangerous, but he couldn't leave David to die. He went to save him. When the dragon attacked, Jake fired his pistol. Haas and the colonel also fired. Farley, despite being injured, ran and distracted the dragon, and the plan worked. Jake saved David, but the dragon grabbed Farley and carried him to its nest. A little later, a rescue helicopter arrived. But as it reached the town, the dragon attacked it, destroyed it, and killed the pilot. Once again, the people of the town were completely alone. David, whose condition was very bad, said with his last breaths that there were 3 eggs in the nest. If those eggs hatched, more dragons would be born and stopping them would become impossible. Jake said they must go to the forest and destroy the eggs. They left Edna there and the rest went into the forest. There they found a power generator that could create dangerous electric current. They thought they could kill the dragon with electricity. Hampton set up the generator. Everyone was ready, but just as Jake was about to turn the switch on, the dragon attacked them. The plan failed and Haas was killed. The colonel, seeing his friend die, became mad and began shooting at the eggs. Jake stopped him and said that the eggs could still be useful for trapping the dragon. On the way, they found a large cargo truck. Jake decided to use the truck to trap the dragon. He said he would do it alone so Claire would be safe because he had begun to like her. Jake loaded the eggs into the truck and drove at full speed, honking loudly so the dragon would follow. The dragon fell for the trap and chased the truck. It struck the truck and then came in front of the windshield, blocking Jake's vision. Ahead, there was a huge cliff and a deep valley. Jake drove the truck at full speed towards the cliff and at the last moment jumped out. The truck, carrying the dragon and the eggs, fell off the cliff and exploded in a massive blast. In that explosion, the dragon and all its eggs were destroyed. Thus, the dangerous ice dragon called Wyvern was finally killed. The people who survived and Claire were waiting for Jake. A little later, he returned and told them the danger was gone. In the end, Jake decided that he would no longer leave and would stay in this town with Claire.